Well, good morning, everyone. Once again, I am Sheena Little, and I am a Procurement Center representative for the Office of Government Contracting for the United States Small Business Administration. I did hear or see all of the small businesses that raised their hands saying that they're small businesses. Thank you for being small businesses because you are the drivers of our economy. And also, by show of hands, how many of you have federal contracts right now? Okay, I see just a couple. How many of you want to have federal contracts? Okay, all right. So this presentation this morning is going to tell you a little bit about what I do as a Procurement Center representative and what the Office of Government Contracting can do for you as small businesses, especially the small businesses who have contracts or want to have contracts with the federal government. So the basis for the small business programs, of course, most of you know, is from the Small Business Act of 1953. And that act is where the Small Business Administration was born from. Our organization was manned up to manage all of the portions of the Small Business Act to make sure that you as small businesses get the largest opportunity practicable to get contracts federally. So the SBA regional and districts offices, when you look at this chart up here, you see 10 different regions. So we have 10 different regions. We have regional administrators who are political appointees for each one of those 10 regions. And within those 10 regions, we have about 68 district offices, and I'm pretty sure you all are familiar with the district office here in Corpus Christi, or the branch that's here. And then we also have about 55 Procurement Center representatives, a person like me, and you'll hear a little bit about what I do in the slides coming forth. So we have those 10 different regions, and we have 6 area offices. Now, the area office from Montana all the way down to Texas, that's Region 8 up in the bronze area, and Region 6 down in the green area. That is the area that Area Office 5 covers. So if you have a business within that area, our area director, Ms. Tanika Pierce, is located in the Dallas-Fort Worth area where our headquarters is, and she and our office will be your supporters. I have about 8 other colleagues in this area office that are Procurement Center representatives that can assist you. Okay, where's my IQ guy? Okay, so the next slide is about the types of SBA contacts in our offices. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this slide just letting you know what all of these different positions or areas do. Our SBA headquarters is located in Washington, D.C., and that's where, you know, all of the headquarters processes go through. I mentioned to you about the 10 regional offices, and we have regional appointees, political appointees, the district offices, which you are probably most familiar with, and that is where the business opportunity specialists or the economic development specialists are, and the lender relations specialists are. So the business opportunity specialists are those persons who are there to manage what we call our 8A business development program. Are any of you familiar with the 8A business development program? Okay, I see a couple of hands. So that business development program it's an application process. So if you're a small business and you're eligible for that program, and our district office here can give you a little bit more information about it because that's a whole new training on its own. So if you're eligible for that, for the 8A program, then you will be able to have the benefit of possibly getting sole source contracts from the federal government. There's a competition side of it, but the beauty in it is that sole source side where a contracting officer can just come directly to your firm to say, hey, I want your firm to do this requirement. And that requirement can be up to $4 million with no additional competition. So if you want to know a little bit more about that 8A business development program, contact your local small business branch or district office here in Corpus Christi. The economic development specialists within that district office, they're generally the people who go out and do a lot of our public affairs stuff. They make sure that the SBA's name is known out there. They talk about our various programs with a broad overview of what our programs do. And then we have our lender relations specialists. Our lender relations specialists are those persons who can help you get the process going for getting those small business loans. And for those small business loans, I just want you to know that the SBA does not give small business loans, but we do guarantee those loans. And the guarantees are upward from 75 to maybe 85%. So you would get the loan from one of the banks, and maybe one of the banks here may be one of our small business loan lenders to small businesses, and then the SBA will guarantee that loan for up to 75%. So if you're in need of additional funds to help grow or start your business, you may want to also go to the local district office and talk to a lender relations specialist. Now, where I work is under the Office of Government Contracting. And under the Office of Government Contracting, we have people like myself who are procurement center representatives. Then we have our commercial market representatives, size specialists, and other industrial specialists. So I'll tell you a little bit about, I'm not going to go over the PCR portion right now, but I'll tell you a little bit about what our commercial market representatives do. Those are the persons that we have in our organizations that ensure that you can get those subcontracting possibilities with the large businesses. So if you're not ready to prime and you want to get some subcontracting, then they're the ones who will help you find the primes within a general area. Like in the Office of Government Contracting for Area 5 where I work, Ms. Sophia Chow is our commercial market representative. And what Sophia does is if you contact her, she can send you a list of all of the prime contractors who are out there, and maybe you can make a connection with those primes if you want to be subcontractors for them. But it is up to you to develop that relationship. And also, as a commercial market representative, what they do is once a contract, a large prime has a contract, and that's over $700,000, that means that they have to have a subcontracting plan according to our federal regulations. And so when they have that subcontracting plan that's a part of their contract, it's a material part of their contract, they have to use those subcontractors that they said that they were going to use when they proposed on their requirement. So what Sophia does is she runs a report twice a year to make sure that those contractors, those prime contractors, are doing what they said that they were going to do. And if they're not, she'll send them a letter and ask them to respond on, okay, you said you were going to use this small business, you know, to supply, you know, XYZ widgets, and we don't see that you've used them yet. And they may come back and say, hey, no, it's in year 2 of this contract where we need these widgets, so expect to see, you know, us using them by then. So on the outside, the SBA is monitoring the subcontracting plan, but it is the primary responsibility of the contracting officer to monitor that subcontracting plan. And then what we have next is the size specialist. So the size specialists are those persons within our organization who are there to analyze any protests that come in that are size related. So in a small business world, and this only applies to small businesses or small business set-asides, so if there is a protest that comes in, everybody bids on a requirement, all of the small businesses bid on a requirement, and then there is an apparent successful offerer. And then one of the interested parties, one of the proposals, or one of the companies who did not win the proposal will say, hey, I don't think that BBVA is actually a small business, and here's the reason why I don't think they are. So if there's any specificity in there, the protest is timely, then the Small Business Administration is going to look into that to make sure that you are, in fact, a small business. We're going to really get into your business when those protests come up. The first thing we're going to do is ask you for your last 3 years of your finances, and soon it's going to be your last 5 years of your finances. But right now, we're going to ask for your tax returns from the last 3 years and all of the other additional information that we need to make sure that you don't have affiliations that make you outside of the size standard for that requirement, or that you just identified yourself as small and you weren't actually small. So we'll go through that process for you, and so that's what our size specialists do. If you are still in fact small, then we'll come back and say, hey, they are considered small under that size standard for the requirement, so they'll be able to go on and proceed with contract award. If they're not, we're going to ask you, as the contractor who misrepresented your size, we're going to ask you to make sure that you go ahead and update your small business profile to say no, that you're not small in that category. And if we felt that it was egregious, then you may have some civil or penalties coming forth. We rarely do that, though. And then we have industrial specialists. Our industrial specialists are actually the people in the background who do commercial, they do the certificate of competency, they do the certificate of competency determinations. And so what a COC is, we call a certificate of competency a COC. And what a COC is when you are the apparent successful offerer in a small business set-aside, or you are a small business that is the apparent successful offerer of a proposal, then if the contracting officer feels for some reason that you probably can't do this contract because you lack the capacity, the financials, or whatever, and then what will happen is that contracting officer will send our office a request for a certificate of competency to ensure that you can do what you said you could do. And so, in turn, our industrial specialist, COC specialists, they're going to ask for similar information that we asked for the size program, and ask for you to rebut any of the things that the contracting officer felt why you didn't have the capability to do that requirement. So this process does get more into your business, because I think the first thing that we do is run a credit report on you. Then we get your finances, and we do some analyzing there, and plus we're going to ask for a lot of different information about your articles of organization and different things. We just look into the things that the contracting officer felt where you lacked the possibility of being able to do this contract. And so what will happen there is the team gets together. We usually pull one of our lender relations specialists that I spoke of before. It's one of them that's usually looking at the financial piece of your organization. Our COC specialist is looking at all of the other information, and then they form a team with the COC specialist, the lender relations, and our legal and our area director. And then they are going to make a recommendation to the area director, but it is the area director's final say as to where we will issue that certificate of competency on your behalf. But a little bit about the statistics on the certificate of competency. When the contracting officers request a certificate of competency, usually about 50% of the time the small businesses say, yes, I want you to issue this on my behalf because I know I can do this job, et cetera, et cetera. Some of you say no because sometimes you should not have, proposed on the job, or even you just don't have time to deal with it because you have bigger fish to fry. So about 50% of the time, small businesses say yes, go ahead on and go through the process. But then only about 48% of those 50% that say yes actually receive a certificate of competency. So we do go in and do these big analyzing and make decisions. It's not just something that we write off on. We want to make sure that your company is capable of supporting whatever federal mission that we have out there. So I've told you most of the things about these areas. So on the Natural Resources and Sales Assistance Program, they are also industrial specialists, but those are the people who are there to support our forestry and timber side. So we don't deal with them much in our Office of Government Contracting, but they are, we have them in the Colorado and other areas. So the small business programs that we manage from a SBA perspective, these are the statutory goals that the federal government should meet for small business goaling. The overall goal is 23%, which means that 23% of federal dollars that are eligible for small businesses, 23% of those dollars should go to small businesses. We have the small disadvantaged business category, which is a 5% goal, and that is where that 8A business development program falls that I mentioned to you a little earlier. And then we have a woman-owned small business goal of 5%, and that is inclusive of the other goal that we have, a subcategory of the woman-owned small business category is the economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business. So all economically disadvantaged woman-owned small businesses are considered woman-owned small businesses, but not all woman-owned small businesses are considered economically disadvantaged. So you have to prove that you are economically disadvantaged. And then we have our hub zone small business goal of 3%. That has been the one goal that the federal agencies have not ever met. So since we started giving out these goals of 23, 5, 5, and 3, 3, only the hub zone goal is the one that the federal agencies just can't meet. And we're making new, we're coming up with new processes to help you, if you become a hub zone contractor, to maintain that hub zone certification. And what generally happens is hub zone means historically underutilized business zone. I know many of you may be familiar with the state hub categories, but for the federal side, it's called a historically underutilized business zone. And that means that your business needs to be in a certain area that is considered a certain zone, I should say, that's considered historically underutilized business. And in addition to that, about 35% of your employees must also be or live in a hub zone. They don't have to live in the hub zone that the business is in, but they just need to live in a hub zone. So the reason why, well, one of the main reasons why the federal agencies can't reach that goal is because we do these hub zone set-aside contracts or sole source contracts. The contractors start thriving and doing well, and then they start paying their employees well, and then those employees start moving out of the hub zone. And then, in turn, they start losing their certifications after a certain period of time. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's really good for you, and then, when your employees start moving out of hub zones, then, it doesn't, fare well for you. So the SBA has realized that, and we're currently working on things to help you maintain that certification and not lose it, because all of your employees, or 35% of them, move out of the, or excuse me, not 35% of them, but when you fall under that 35%, that you don't lose your hub zone certification. And then we have the service-disabled, veteran-owned small business goal of 3%. So probably in the last 5 years, the federal agencies, we have met or exceeded that overall 23% goal. So that's where all of those subcategories are considered small businesses, so they do make up that 23% number up there. But we've met that 23% for probably about the last 5 years. We've actually exceeded it, but usually we're missing one of those other subcategories. It's always hub zone. It may be hub zone and woman-owned, or hub zone and small disadvantage, or hub zone and service disabled, but it's always, hub zone is always included in there. So one of the main reasons I wanted to talk to you today was to let you know a little bit about the Procurement Center representatives, and that is my job title, and wanted to let you know about what we do and how we can help you if you get a federal contract. And I do help, contractors who don't have federal contracts. I try to reach out and help you resolve whatever issues that you may have, but I may have to refer you to someone else, in that maybe it's a state or local type of issue. I may have to refer you to someone, but if it's federal, I have just a little bit more authority when you have issues on the federal side. So FAR Part 19, and FAR is the Federal Acquisition Regulation, which is pretty much our Bible on the federal side for doing federal acquisitions. And so Part 19.402 is what says that the federal agencies or the SBA should have procurement center representatives at the majority of the major buying activities. You heard my bio a little earlier today, and I support primarily the Department of Defense. And so, so I'm the primary person in the San Antonio area and some of the other outskirts, but I also oversee the Texas National Guard in Austin and then 4 other Air Force bases. I have 16 areas that I'm responsible for, 16 agencies that I support, I should say. So as small business advocates for you, all of you are small businesses and we are your advocates, we have to have certain levels of contracting certification, and so we all have to be level 3 in our acquisition certifications, and we also are all in the GS 1102 series. And what that means is that is the general schedule for all of the federal employees, and that means that 1102 is a contracting series. So the majority of us, I think about 99% of the procurement center representatives have a vast contracting experience background on the federal side, mostly on the Department of Defense side. And as I mentioned before, we're here to help ensure that the small businesses get their fair portion of opportunities for contracts. So we can make sure that opportunity is out there for you, but you have to go in and give that great proposal and win the contract, because your proposal is what's going to win your contract, not because you know me, not because you know a contracting officer or the program manager. It is your proposal that is going to win you that contract. So we're here to help mainly to advise the programs that we support or the activities that we support, and also you as small businesses about any of the contracting and small business related issues. So here's a little bit, these next few slides is going to be a little bit about what we actually do. And we coordinate on what we call the small business coordination documents. So what generally happens is, if anything over what we consider our micro purchase threshold, which is $10,000 now, if a organization has anything over $10,000, any requirement that's over $10,000, and they said, hey, no small business can do this requirement, and then that package is going to come across my desk. I'm going to look at it and see if there is a reason why a small business can't do this requirement. And so I will do some additional market research, because they have to send me a market research report with that package. I would do some additional market research to validate it, and I may say, yes, okay, I understand this because this is a brand name for Dell computers or whatever. So there are no small business manufacturers of Dell computers. So I may say, hey, Dell Computers does have small business authorized distributors, and so it depends on the dollar threshold, and if we have any type of waiver process in place, that I can recommend that they go a small business set aside for it, because there's 5 small business distributors. The dollar threshold is under what we consider our simplified acquisition threshold of $250,000, and so we don't have to worry about our non-manufacturing rule, and then they can go ahead and set that aside for you maybe. And then we have one of the great pieces that we do have with our small business coordination is, if I disagree with them and say, no, there are small businesses for this type of service, and I know that there are, I'm recommending that you do a small business set aside, or even further restrict it to woman-owned, service disabled, or whomever. And if they don't want to do that, then under our FAR authority, we can say, okay, Mr. Contracting Officer, we have to stop this requirement right now until we get this area or this issue fixed. And what happens is, I'm going to first talk to the contracting officer. If the contracting officer still disagrees, then I'm going to go to their head of contracting activity. And so that would be, the head of that agency. And then if the head of the agency say no, 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 and then what happens is it goes to the Secretary of the Air Force for small businesses. It could be for the Air Force, it could be for the Army, or whatever federal agency that we're dealing with. And we never want, the requirements or those type of concerns to even hit the HCA area. So we try to work with you with the contracting activities to make sure that we're advocating on your behalf, as best as we can to make those requirements still become a small business set-aside. So I've only done 2 of the formal Form 70s, and both of them have resulted in a small business set-aside, but that's not something that we, like to brag about, because we want to have great rapport with the activities that we support and want them to be able to want to support small businesses. And then a part of that small business coordination documents is reviewing those acquisitions. And we do look at those whole acquisition packages, and a lot of times if it's for a major acquisition, we have a seat at the table when they are actually coming up with the market research, so we can assist in the market research process to ensure that small businesses are being considered early, so when that package hits my desk, it won't be my first time looking at it, and then I have to go back and say, no, let me do some additional market research. So they try to keep us in early as possible. We monitor the federal business opportunity notices. By show of hands, how many of you know what the Federal Business Opportunities Bulletin is? It's fbo.gov, the www.fbo.gov. And so that's the area where all of the federal requirements that are over $25,000, that's where they should be posting. That's our bulletin board for us to post any requirement that's out there. So if you're in the business of doing business with the federal government, that is your main go-to, to go look at the fbo.gov website to see what is out there that you're capable of doing and proposing on. And so I do go out and I monitor those, that website, and if I see a requirement, maybe it's for construction, I may send an email to some of the construction people that I've done capability meetings with and say, hey, did you see this requirement out here? It's going to go small business set aside, or we want it to go small business set aside. So if it's a sources sought saying, hey, are there any small businesses out there? Because they post sources sought out on the FBO website as well. Please answer that mail, because if you're not answering to say, hey, I'm a small business who can do this requirement, it's going to not help me when I'm trying to drive the requirement to a small business set-aside. So the contracting officer can really say, hey, I had the sources sought out there for 2 weeks, no small businesses replied, although 15 of you could do it, you didn't reply to the sources sought, and they're saying our market research shows that nobody can really do it, no small businesses can do it. And then I have to go out and make those phone calls to you and say, hey, can you do this? Trying to get at least 2 or more small businesses so that we can get it set aside. Because in order to have a small business set aside, there has to be at least 2 or more small businesses who are capable of accomplishing a requirement at a fair and reasonable price. And we also counsel small and other than small businesses. And with that counsel is usually, I may have a one-on-one with you. It's something that that you're not feeling good about on your trying to grow your businesses, as far as am I reaching out to the right people? Are there any other contacts that you can give me to help me improve the growth of my business, or or help start me with my business? So we can talk to you about that. We will look over your capability statements to make sure that it has the things that it needs from a federal perspective. And I know that your local PTAC are the people who can help you craft that capability statement. But we in turn will look at it, and if something is missing from it, we'll help you, add that additional information. The other than small businesses are what we call large businesses generally, but other than small is anything that's not a small business, because sometimes we do business with nonprofits and other type of corporations or or just individuals, and we have individual set-asides for that as well. So anything that is not considered a small business, we say other than small. And so I know, like, I see a spa glass booth up here. So with the spa glass, they may come to me and say, hey, I don't have enough woman-owned subcontractors. You know, how can you help me, you know, reach out to woman-owned subcontractors? So I will either send them my repository of woman-owned, or I'll send them to my commercial market representative person, Ms. Sophia Child, that I mentioned earlier, so that she can assist them with, you know, trying to find subcontractors. But generally, when an other than small is coming to us, it's generally because they're looking for you, because they can't find you. And then we conduct what we call surveillance reviews. So all of those activities that we support as procurement center representatives, every year the federal agencies, where the SBA looks at our top 300 list, and that's the top 300 buyers on the federal side. And we'll select a certain percentage to go out and do surveillance reviews. And when we go out and do a surveillance review, it's pretty much like an inspection of that company. We're pretty much inspecting their small business programs. And so we're going to go through those contracting files and make sure that you know, there were no missed small business opportunities, to make sure that, oh, they did this one full and open instead of reserving it for a small business set aside. We can't change it right then because that contract has already been awarded, and oftentimes it's already closed. So what we will do is we'll make a write-up, and they'll have to give us a corrective action report for that. So we go in, we look at a lot of aspects. We look at their overall small business program. We look at their 8A business development program, and we also look at their subcontracting program to see if there was a contract to a large business, did you require them to have a subcontracting plan? And if you didn't, is the proper documentation there? And so we'll also take a further look to see, are you managing this subcontracting plan to make sure that this large business or other than small business is utilizing those small businesses the way they said they should? And then we can conduct periodic reviews on those activities that we support. So if I have an activity that, you know, I keep seeing when I'm monitoring the federal business opportunity notices, I keep seeing requirements come up that on FBO, they've posted a solicitation and I haven't seen it yet, if it's full and open, because anything that's going to be full and open, I should see that requirement if it's over $25,000. And so if there's something out there that's going full and open and I haven't seen it, then and they have a trend of doing it, I will come in and request to look at a percentage of their contracting files to make sure that, you know, was this a onesie twosie things? Maybe they need some training in a certain area, so that we're helping to support you, because oftentimes some of them could have been small business set-asides. And because I didn't receive the package, you know, to coordinate on, I did not know it was out there had I not been monitoring the Federal Business Opportunity website. Other things we do is we promote all of the socioeconomic categories. We promote small business as a whole, but we also recommend those socioeconomic categories. So on the federal side, anytime there's a small business set aside that's over $250,000, which is our simplified acquisition threshold, the contracting officers have to first consider any of those socioeconomic categories. So if market research showed that there were 3 woman-owned, 3 service-disabled veterans, or 5 hub zone contractors that can do this work, and the requirement is over $250,000, and they send it to me and say, hey, it's only going to be a small business set-aside, and I'm looking at the market research and said, you know, FAR 19 says that you have to first consider those socioeconomic set-asides before you go just total full and you know, total small business set aside to just let everyone be able to participate. And they have, you know, sometimes they have good reasons and say, hey, you know, we've done this for the last couple of years. We've tried to set it aside for woman-owned, and none of the woman-owned businesses responded, or we generally only get 2 proposals, you know, historically. So, you know, it's not a good idea for us to, you know, further set it aside. But if they don't have good reasoning, because they do have to give us a business decision as to why they didn't set it aside for one of those socioeconomic categories, then, we'll, help to make that recommendation that they do. And if they don't, they can go total 100% small business set aside if there's no issues, because you still have to have 2 or more capable small businesses in each of those respective categories in order for them to further set it aside as well. And we provide and attend training. We do the outreach programs, and mediating small business is the main thing that I wanted to talk about here. Is mediate small business issues. A lot of times contractors send me an email saying, hey, Sheena, I've been doing this contract. I've completed it 60 days ago, and I haven't got my payment yet. Why is the government haven't paid me yet? I've been trying to reach out to the contracting officer. They're not responding back, or whatever the issue is. And so I go in and I talk to those contracting officers or those acquisition personnel to find out why you haven't been paid, especially as the small business. We have the Prompt Payment Act where we have to pay you, generally within 15 days, but no later than 30 days as a small business to make sure that you get your payment. But also remember, a lot of times when the small businesses come to me and say, hey, it's past 30 days, it's going to be 15 or 30 days from the time that you've given them a good invoice. So if your first invoice was incorrect and it was on the 1st of March, and then you fixed it, and on the 14th of March, you're still having issues, you're still going back and forth with the contracting officer to get your invoice fixed, they don't have to have paid you by the 15th or by the end of that month. It's when they get that correct invoice in. So once, you get through going the back and forth of getting your invoices correct and them accepting the services correctly, then your 15 and 30-day timeline starts from that period. So 2 March, don't expect to get paid if you haven't 15 March, don't expect to get paid if you have not resolved those invoicing issues. But most of it is that. Sometimes it's personality driven. The contracting officer representative is having issues with maybe some of the contractors that are on site or whatever. But whatever your issues are, especially issues that you don't feel comfortable going straight talking to the contracting officer to, because you feel that if you talk to them, you never get another contract or whatever, we're the people who are there to step up and diplomatically go in and ask certain questions to help get your issues resolved. And we report and we mitigate those excessive bridge contracts. And what we mean by excessive bridge contracts, we've seen in the past, a requirement has been a small business set aside, and it was for maybe $100 million. And yes, we do small business set asides for that much. And so it was for a 5-year contract for $100 million, and it went to, say, a service disabled veteran-owned small business. So if we, by year 4 of that contract, generally that small business has outgrown that size standard, because our highest size standard is like 38.5 million. So we do know that by year 5, if we paid them, that whole $100 million, we don't have any size standard that exceeds the 38.5, which is soon going to be, I think, 40 million when we make our changes to our next code's size standards. So what'll happen is the contracting offices generally say, okay, well, I don't want to say generally, but what has happened when we're talking about bridge contracts, something has happened and they haven't done their reprocurement in time to make it a small business set aside again, and they're like, hey, we're going to have to do a sole source contract to the same contractor because we need more time to do the reprocurement, or we did the reprocurement and there's a protest on that reprocurement, so now we have to extend the services through a bridge contract to to the incumbent. Well, the incumbent has already outgrown that size standard, so they're not considered a small business anymore. So now, small businesses are not being able to appreciate having that contract. And sometimes we've seen this for like 6 years in a row on that same contract. One of the contracts I did, it was $100 million for the initial contract, but a business received at least $140 million in bridge contracts when they had outgrown that size standard. So we're there to help mitigate that and help to see why that contracting activity has been slow in reprocuring these requirements. We do know that sometimes protests do that, but you can't have a protest every year, about the same thing. So if it is, you have a contracting problem. What are you doing wrong in your contracting area where, protests for the same types of issues are being upheld? So our headquarters people get involved more at that level, if the issue is that high. The things that we see for any of the government contracts that may come across, we look at all of these types of things, or we have the ability to look at all of these things, the coordination records, those bid abstracts, to just make sure that those contracting officers are choosing the right people, especially if they said it was low price technically acceptable. Did you select the low price technical acceptable contractor for the appeals, for the set-asides and everything? So I've talked to you a little bit about those types of things with the subcontracting plans. Congressional inquiries. We get congressional inquiries sometimes where, one of you has went to your congressman and said, hey, San Antonio is not small business friendly. That's not true. We are very small business friendly. But if you say San Antonio is not small business friendly because none of their construction is in small business, which is totally not true in San Antonio, then we would go in and we'll have to help them resolve that congressional inquiry because it has to be resolved in a short time frame. So we get to look and help with that as well. And so we say that we're a little bit unique because we're kind of considered the insider and outsider. We're there to support the contracting activities when they have small business issues, but our primary job is to support you. So I'm sitting there on the fence. When you need me, I'm going to lean over on that side of the fence and help you to the most to the highest extent that I can. But when the contracting managers, when they're out there, those activities that we support, when they need something, then we're out there to help them too. Just like this morning, I looked at my email and one of the agencies I support said, hey, we need somebody with office furniture. Can you, somebody who can do the full install, get all the office furniture, whatever. So we're out there helping you as well to say, hey, well, I know 18 small businesses that can do that. Here's their names or, the names of their firms or whatever. We'll make recommendations to them. So that's that insider-outsider perspective that they have for us. That special authority is what I mentioned to you a little bit earlier about our Form 70, where we can stop a requirement till we get that requirement completed. And then we have the small business specialist support. And the one thing that I do want to tell you is with your small business specialist support is we work primarily with those small business specialists who are in those activities to make sure that those small business specialists are overseeing their agencies the way they should, because your first stop when you're going to promote your business to any federal agency is to talk to that small business specialist to make sure that they know that you're out there, because they cannot advocate for you if they do not know that you're out there. And these are just a few common mistakes that some of the small businesses have when attempting to get government contracts. Number one is not responding to those sources sought that I mentioned earlier. If we don't know you're out there or interested, then it doesn't help us with the market research. Not reading the solicitation in its entirety, which means that you submit your proposal, but you miss something. If they said don't exceed 45 pages for your proposal and you gave them 50, they're going to stop at page 45. So, the other pages, whether you really needed them in there or not, they won't be looked at. And if it didn't meet all the requirement, you're going to go in that other pile. Not having your small business profiles up to date. So, if you're registered to do business with the federal government, you have a SAM registration, the System for Award Management registration, and that's on www.sam.gov. make sure that you're going to .gov, because that's where the free registration is. If you go to .com, .org, or .net, it may be a third party who wants to help you register at a nominal fee. So make sure you're going to .gov. Pricing your proposals too high or too low, you're pricing them too low just so you can get in there and say, I'm going to get my first contract with the government. They're going to know that I'm doing really good, so they're going to offer me more contracts. What I mentioned to you earlier, your proposal gets you that contract for each proposal that you do. So if you price it too low, that's what you're going to get. Your next proposal, they're not going to say, oh, hey, they did really good and they gave us a low price, so we're going back, low proposal, we're going to go back to them. We can't, because your proposal is going to be looked at, for each specific requirement. And not staying compliant with your certification. So if you have HubZone, woman-owned, whatever, those other socioeconomic categories, when you're not staying compliant with them, especially with the 8A certifications, if you don't stay compliant with those certifications, when those set-asides for those respective socioeconomic categories come out, we can't help you. If you don't have your woman-owned small business information uploaded into our repository, which is a requirement, if you don't have that uploaded, there's nothing we can do for you, because you have to have it uploaded prior to proposing. So, we're asking you to stay compliant in the things that you need to stay compliant with. And just a few helpful hints here: always network and represent your firm well. And these are just some websites for you to have. The SBA.gov is our website for the Small Business Administration. I mentioned to you about FBO.gov. That's where we put all of our pre-award information and who got the contract for the notice of award. The FPDS is the Federal Data Procurement System, and that is the website where all of the awards get placed once that contract goes into place. So you can go into FPDS and search a certain contractor, and you can see what award they got, or search a certain requirement and find out what that award amount was. It's not going to give you the itemized, individual CLIN pricing on it, but it will give you the overall price. And then we have the dynamic small business search, and then the Farsight or acquisition.gov. That is where our federal acquisition reps website is. I think the last one is any questions. Any questions for me?
Good morning, Sheena. Quick question for you over here. Okay. Just wanted to know, what advice can you offer for small business owners that fall with their goods and services below the $25,000 acquisition threshold? Because I'm Robert with PTAC, and we mentor a lot of clients that are running into trying to get out there and get known, but they don't always know where to go because they can't take advantage of all the great opportunities that happen at the higher levels.
Okay, for requirements that are under $25,000, they don't have to post them to that FBO website that I mentioned to you earlier. So they can just go out, our buyers can go out, do some market research, because they're going to go do internet searches. The main thing that they're going to do is go to our dynamic small business search, which is the third from the bottom. That's our SBA, that's where your SBA profile is held. And so our dynamic small business search, they're going to go out there and do their market research first. If they find your organization there, then they can go out and just email you a proposal and say, hey, and they only have to email about 3 proposals. They usually do about 5. They'll send 5 emails out with the actual solicitation or request for a quote, and then you in turn email them back, and you can get, you can participate that way. Also, we have a government purchase card program, and so they can purchase up to $25,000 on or more on those government purchase cards, and that is really just our government Visa card. It's a Visa or MasterCard that's tax-free for the government to buy goods and services. So again, go talk to that small business specialist. That small business specialist can put you in contact with the billing officials or the area program coordinators for the government purchase cards. They can put you in contact with them. They're not going to give you the list of all the card holders, which we were able to do in the past, but we can't do it anymore. So they can at least let them know that you're out there. So when their people have those type of requirements that come out, they can still find you. But the main thing we stress upon you is to have your dynamic small business search profile up to date, because that is the #1 place that our buyers go when they're looking for anything to buy in the federal government, but especially for those oral or email quotes that you get, they're going to go there first. Yes, sir.
Hold on.
Where's the hub zone for Corpus Christi?
I can't tell you where the actual hub zone is, but if you go to our website at the SBA.gov and type in hub zone, you can actually put in your own address or whatever address that where your business is, and it'll let you know if your business is in a hub zone. So I just don't know particularly for Corpus Christi, but that is where you can find it. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much.